fans of the traditional active time battle have been begging and pleading for Final Fantasy VII Remake to retain its original ATB battle system. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, as both Nomura and Kitase have confirmed time and time again that FF7R will be moving toward a more action-oriented battle system. Which of course makes sense. We've seen Final Fantasy XV move to action combat because Kingdom Hearts director Tetsuya Nomura being the game's first director, and now he is the director of Final Fantasy VII Remake. However, it simply wouldn't be possible to make Final Fantasy VII Remake a turn-based game in the traditional sense. There are many reasons why, and I'm going to explain those to you in a bit, but the first thing I want you to keep in mind is that the people who are working on this game, a good majority of them worked on the original Final Fantasy VII. These aren't some new guys trying to interpret the original's work. These were the men who worked their asses off to make the original PlayStation 1 classic we know and love. Tetsuya Nomura, the director of the project, was the original Final Fantasy VII character designer and also directed Advent Children. He's also the director of the entire Kingdom Hearts series. Yoshinori Kitase is the producer of the project, and he's directed many awesome Final Fantasies, such as Final Fantasy VI, VII, VIII, and X. For a Final Fantasy to be made, old or new, you couldn't ask for two more qualified and experienced people to lead the project. After all, their combined works is probably what got you into Final Fantasy in the first place. That being said, let's get to it. Number 1. Final Fantasy VII Remake has got to acquire new fans. This game isn't just to please the original fans. The goal of Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't just to get people who played the first game to play it again. If they wanted to do that, an HD remaster similar to 10 and 12 would have been easier and much cheaper route to go down. No. Instead, FF7R is more so about kids who've grown up hearing about how amazing Final Fantasy VII's story was, but never got to play it. Turn-based combat is not as mainstream as it used to be in the 90s and early 2000s, and has since then evolved into a niche market, whereas Square Enix is looking for mainstream market territory, a territory that can only be penetrated with action combat. Number 2. Turn-based and photorealism is a bad combination. It was fine when Final Fantasy VII had a very anime look to it and was a much more stylized world. However, FF7R has a gorgeous, detailed, realistic world to it, in order to give a deeper gravity to FF7's world in a way which we've only seen teased in some compilation games. By using turn-based in this photorealistic world, not only would you take away from the atmosphere of the game, it would look utterly ridiculous. One thing Final Fantasy XV did really well was the scale of its battles, such as how tiny you felt going up against the Astral Titan. Using this same scale for the weapon battles, an example, and then having it so you select attack off of a menu and then jump back into place would look wonky at best, and completely remove the player from the experience. Number 3. There is no point in making the same game twice. To be honest, it actually blows my mind that there are some people who literally want the same game again. They want the developers to spend 3 to 5 years of their life making the exact same game they already had, again, with prettier graphics. In fact, if this is what you want, I highly recommend checking out all the great mods that are available for the Steam PC version of Final Fantasy VII. They shouldn't just make a prettier Final Fantasy VII, they need to make the Final Fantasy VII that could not be made in 1996. This means expressing things and doing things that couldn't be done before on the PlayStation 1. Number 4. Final Fantasy VII Remake has to succeed in the West. This is something I never thought I would say about a Final Fantasy game, but FF7R needs to succeed in the West more than it needs to succeed in Japan. Final Fantasy XV was the first Final Fantasy to sell more in the United States than it did in Japan. In part, this has to do with a dying console market in Japan and a continually thriving one in the United States. Fact of the matter is, there are simply less PS4s for the game to be played on in Japan, with much more growth of their video game industry being seen on mobile and arcade. Many people in the West who normally wouldn't pick up a turn-based game would definitely pick up an action RPG. The original FF7 broke barriers with its original menu-driven combat here in the West. It could probably sell even more now with an action combat system. Number 5. It's a perfect fit for the Final Fantasy VII universe. Ever since watching Advent Children and playing Crisis Core, I couldn't help but imagine what an action-oriented Final Fantasy VII would play like. Getting to be able to pull off incredible combos like in Kingdom Hearts, while maintaining the flexibility and customization of such things as the materia system, with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, this is finally a possibility, and I'm more excited than ever. So there are the 5 reasons I believe Final Fantasy VII Remake has to have real-time action combat in order to survive. Are there some other reasons you thought of, or believe they should still use the traditional ATB system instead? Be sure to like this video and let us know your perspective in the comments below.